Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being patient. I know today went a little long, but how about we just go ahead and get started? Is that okay?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, do you mind if I just hold it? Thank you. I appreciate it. It's just easier so I can read my question and stuff. Hi, Mayor. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for
Good.
asking.
You know, we're all doing our prep stories for the DNC, so I have a couple of questions about that. You know, in 1996, Richard M. Daley said he felt like the father of the bride as he prepared to host the DNC. And I'm just wondering, do you have an analogy as you prepare to play host about how you're feeling, you know, if he was the father of the bride? You know, how are
Yeah.
you feeling?
Well, I haven't heard that reference ever in my life. Well, look, I'm still very much excited about the opportunity to showcase, you know, the greatest city in the world. The goal is still very much the same, is to have a safe and a vibrant convention that launches President Biden and, of course, Vice President Kamala Harris back in office for another 4 years. Their work that they've done over the course of these first 4 years are critical to Chicago's mission to make sure that we're providing mental health services, building affordable homes, investing in our young people, and of course, you know, keeping our residents safe. So, you know, I don't really have a full reference in that regard, but I will say that I'm, you know, very much excited and proud of the work that our leadership team has done this far.
You know, the 40 protesters who were charged with misdemeanors for obstructing traffic at O'Hare to protest the war in Gaza have urged your administration to drop the charges against them. They spoke out, I'm sure you heard it, to the council today. Why did the city pursue these charges, and will your administration heed those calls to drop them?
Well, it's under litigation right now, and as long as it's under litigation, you know, I'm not, you know, positioned to comment beyond that. Thank you for that question.
Tessa?
Hi, Mayor.
Hey.
I was wondering, you know, Trump's assassination attempt and the security lapse that happened with that, and also police had killed a man outside of the RNC yesterday, the other day in Milwaukee. That really raises the security stakes ahead of the DNC. You know, what level of force are you ready to condone for police to quell political violence that may arise?
Well, there's no place for political violence in this country. You know, I can tell you firsthand as a former social studies teacher and, of course, as a descendant of slaves, I can tell you political violence is horrific. What I can say, though, is that there are two different scenarios. There's preparation for a convention, and then there's a rally, right? So there's different developments that take place as a result of those particular functions. What I can say is the city of Chicago has been rated the #1 city to host conventions. We're really good at what we do. And so our local police department will continue to coordinate with our Secret Service and do everything in our power, of course, to make sure that it is a safe and vibrant convention.
And I was wondering as well, CPD's draft policy on responding to protests and gatherings during the DNC says force will only be used when it is objectively reasonable, necessary, and proportional. In your view, when is force objectively needed?
Well, look, constitutional policing, that's the goal. We want to make sure that we're keeping protesters safe so that they can exercise their First Amendment rights. That's critical. And again, a vibrant, exciting convention. Look, I understand why there's a lot of questions around safety and security. That is what I think about every single day when I wake up, before I go to bed. But again, I'm confident in our leadership of our superintendent to ensure that we have a safe and a vibrant convention and the constitutional rights of those who are protected, that those are front and center in every decision that we make as a city.
Hey, Mayor.
Hey.
Alderman Robinson last week praised an ordinance that your office appeared to be backing that sought to crack down on people illegally organizing large gatherings on city land at night and at vacant lots. Your administration then said it moved forward erroneously with the policy. What happened there, and what more is being done to address the so-called teen trend events that ordinance was targeted at?
Well, you know, I've made this very clear that I believe that we have to create more spaces that are safe for our young people to find their purpose and just to enjoy this city. The ultimate goal is really to prevent, unfortunately, the round of mass shootings that have taken place all over the country. The goal is to make sure that we don't have dynamics and situations that can lead to people getting hurt and harmed. So, for instance, I don't know if you remember, Jake, I don't know if he had started yet, but there was an illegal gathering that took place in North Lawndale, and it led to a mass shooting. All of the regulations that we have in place were all circumvented. And I'm putting that mildly and politely. So there is a degree in which we have to ensure that in some instances where you have landlords who do not live in the neighborhood or the city at all, where they own property, and someone else is able to use that property for a particular dynamic or thing that they claimed was going to take place there, and then something else happens there. And then we have these illegal gatherings, and we want to ensure that those don't happen. You know, as far as what happened there, end quote, it was erroneously posted.
I mean, you talked about the need just now to prevent landlords to do things, or people from using properties illegally like that for such gatherings. Do you think that there needs to be more enforcement or stronger fines?
Well, look, that's
anything
exactly
like
what I'm
that?
saying, is that there are challenges there, real challenges there. And, you know, our team is working to address those elements. Those elements of bad actors who are not responsibly holding up to their responsibility as a landlord.
So when I covered the convention 28 years ago under Mayor Daley, when I believe Leslie Fox was the executive director, the concern was how do we cage or contain protesters. Now the concern in the communities is what public safety assurances do we have, considering that we're already under policed. And a symptom of that is these teen flash mobs that have affected my neighborhood and crippled them to the point that people are ready to practice their Second Amendment rights because we're sick and tired of it. And people are also sick and tired of the police not wanting to do their jobs because they say you ordered them to stand down and not do anything unless there was any damage to property, which there has been, and any threat to life and limb.
I think I heard your question.
I hadn't finished. Hold on.
Well, I
because
think I
they
heard
have
your
BB
question.
Let the mayor
guns
answer the
among those
question.
jail things.
You've asked your question. What is being done to ensure safety? Well, I got it. So the question was, how are we going to ensure safety even beyond the convention? Because life is still happening in Chicago. And I'm glad you asked that question. That's important. Not only is life still going on, school starts the next week. There are a number of events that are happening prior to the convention. The neighborhoods will not be harmed as a result of the work that we will do to create a safe and vibrant convention. It won't be. Look, I still live in the very neighborhoods, as I've expressed multiple times, where disinvestment has existed and where violence has been pervasive. Public safety is my number one issue. I wake up thinking about it, I go to bed thinking about it. And so there will continue to be police presence on all the respective beats and districts. But I will say this lastly, it's not policing alone. That is not the answer. It's going to take all of us to build a better, stronger, safer Chicago. And that's why our administration has launched Taking Back the Blocks, where we're showing up in the neighborhoods with resources. Where there is pervasive violence, there's also abject poverty. And so we have to address both of those. But again, policing in and of itself will do its part even during the convention. Thank you for that question.
My neighborhoods, my surrounding neighborhoods in my area aren't impoverished, and they want fines. And they want the money from those fines used to reinvest in community policing and a specific public safety plan for our areas and a general public safety plan.
Well, we have the public safety. Yeah. No, look, you're right. It's about accountability and opportunity. Those investments, we're already seeing the fruit of that. $1.25 billion investment for neighborhood development as well as housing. But we also have 27,140 roughly young people that have jobs this summer. That's a 32% increase since I've been in office. So the vision that I'm carrying out is reflecting the values of the city.
We're going to Sarah. We're going to Sarah.
Thanks. Good afternoon, Mayor.
Good afternoon.
As you know, the CPS will be voting on a budget next week, or the school board will be. Are you still tossing around the idea of a long-term, high-interest loan?
Well, as you know, there's been structural damage to our public schools for a very long time. The Chicago Public Schools, the Board of Education, and my office, we're all working together to ensure that the children of the city of Chicago receive a high-quality education. One of the things, of course, that I've been very clear about, and all of us are on the same page for the first time, we have shifted to evidence-based budgeting. This funding formula allows for equity to be the top consideration, or really the model for how we fund our schools. Now, as a result of that shift, from previous administrations to embrace that motto. The state of Illinois, they're clear that the city of Chicago and our residents, it's a $1.1 billion investment from the state of Illinois by adhering to the funding formula model that they actually have accepted. Now, as far as what we do in the meantime, I can tell you this emphatically. As a former public school teacher and as someone who relies upon public schools, my children, for the first time in the history of Chicago, the mayor of Chicago actually sends their children to Chicago public schools. I'm not going to tolerate cuts to our children. Not going to tolerate it. And so there are a number of considerations that we have to make to ensure that our children get what they deserve.
So are you still considering the
As
high
I said,
interest
I
loan?
have not changed my mind about investing in our children. I will never change my mind.
Does that mean that you're butting heads with your own school board?
Well, what it means is what I've said, that I'm not going to accept cuts to the classrooms, to children. And the state of Illinois, and thankfully, the leadership of Leader Will Davis, which the funding formula was shifted, the state of Illinois rightfully owes the children of Chicago, the families of Chicago, $1.1 billion. But here's the dynamic and the element that I think we all should understand. It's not just our school district. I'm the first one saying it out loud. They're going to owe the second largest school district, U46, more resources. School districts in Waukegan, Tams, Illinois, East St. Louis, all of us are going to require the state of Illinois to up its investments in our young people. It's worth it. I can tell you, I'm a product of public schools. Most of my staff, my chief of staff, chief operations officer, product of public education, it works when we invest in it.
Good afternoon, Mayor.
Good afternoon.
As I'm sure you know, there was reporting in the last 24 hours about the potential removal of the George Washington
I knew
statue.
that was coming because the way you were just grinning is just like,
I was going to be the first to ask about
All
it, but
right, all right.
I want to frame it in this way. As a former
just
teacher,
ask the question. No, I'm
where
teasing.
do you stand on public monuments depicting figures or events with mixed legacies, and will you be implementing any of the recommendations from the Monuments Task Force to remove or look at problematic monuments?
No, look, first of all, well framed, right? Because there is a task force dedicated to this, and this wasn't not just confined to Chicago. This is all over the country, at the height of real massive resistance in this country after the George Floyd murder. It really challenged our country to look more critically around how we may be perpetuating the very violence that we claim that we want to disrupt. And so, first of all, look, this is not top of mind right now for my administration, admittedly. And I appreciate you framing it as a former public school teacher, because now I feel a little extra pressure. But it's not top of mind. I mean, yesterday I was on the west side of Chicago in my neighborhood delivering $5 million for flood victims, right? Making sure that our small businesses have the resources that they need. Semicolon, which I encourage everybody to go there. It's an amazing bookstore. Danny does an amazing job. It's on the Magnificent Mile. Go check it out. Go buy books. That's what I was focused on. Now, as far as like the intricacies of what you're ultimately trying to get out of me here, I'll say this emphatically. We do have a reckoning in this country because we do have to acknowledge that trauma. Look, I'm investing in mental health support. I can tell you, descendants of slaves have endured a level of trauma that quite frankly has not been documented. And there are instances when trauma can be perpetuated even unknowingly. And so there are some considerations that we have to make. There were 50 schools that were closed down in this city named after monumental, significant leaders in this world, in this country. So I hope that answers your question, that it's not lost on me that we do have to have some real recognition to how certain symbols and presentations are not being completely towed. But again, my big mission right now is to make sure that we have safe communities. We're investing in mental health, building affordable homes, and making sure that our young people know that they are loved.
I just had one more if
Okay,
possible.
sure. I'm sorry to go long-winded on that one.
That's
I think
okay.
that's actually a really good question. You win today. All right.
Can you share at all where discussions are at between your administration and Alderman Martin's ordinance on lobbyist giving to mayoral campaigns? I noticed that was pushed again today.
Yeah, so we've had really good conversations about the entire ethics package, right? I know you're speaking to one element of it, but it's an entire package. I would encourage all of you to read it. There's some things in there that I think are worth exploring. Look, we need to transform the way we do government in not just in Chicago, but quite frankly, the entire state of Illinois. And so whether it's making sure that we are responding to the fact that, what is it, 38 alders that have either been indicted or have gone to jail. I mean, that's a pretty sad, horrific record. And so it has to be a matter of how are we reforming our ethics that gets at what we ultimately want to get at, which is real transformation. I'm on record. I don't know if there's any other executive in the country. There might be that's speaking about public financing for elections. Like what incumbent would say that, right? But that's how true I am. All right, thank you.
Hey, Mayor, how are
Hey.
you today?
I'm well, thank you.
You're welcome. So I wanted to ask, the O'Hare 40 and others in the local organizing community see these charges as an indicator, a possible indicator of how your administration and police will respond should there be mass protests during the DNC. What is your response to their concerns?
Well, the First Amendment right will be protected. Just hands down. It's a fundamental right. You know, what's ironic about this is that there are some people that are concerned that I'm too friendly to the right to protest. I've led massive demonstrations. I've taken arrests. I know how important it is to make sure that voices are heard. I'm going to protect that right. Again, as a black man, I benefited from protest. In fact, we all have benefited from black protest in particular. Again, this is something that is in litigation, is ongoing, so I can't comment to the specific element of what happened. Go ahead.
Yeah, I had one more question.
Sure.
As you saw, Alderman David Moore introduced another ordinance related to ShotSpotter, and it got delayed toward the end of the meeting. But I wanted to ask you, when we talked to him afterwards, he said that he has the support to pass this specific ordinance. I'm just wondering, do you have any comment related to that?
Not really, but I feel the pressure to respond. ShotSpotter has been canceled. It's been canceled. Now, where the effort should be, how do we make sure that we're really building a better, stronger, safer Chicago? Look, our country had a decision a generation ago: war on drugs or war on poverty. Well, we know the pathway that they took. And so from the crime bill on back, mass incarceration has been the addiction of this country, of our society. And so where the focus should be, quite frankly, are in the investments that I'm making, $1.25 billion investment. Let's talk about how we can build homes. We, in the 20th Ward, the 9th Ward, and the 24th Ward, vacant land going to local developers to build homes. That's what people are talking about right now in my administration. In fact, the last thing that I'll say to this is that, as you know, the business community has really stepped up. $100 million they've added to CVI. We had that report last week. That's what I'm talking about. That's the jam right there. Because now you have the governor, you have the president of the United States of America, you have the Cook County Board president, you have the mayor of Chicago, all talking about root causes and how we stop gun violence. Here's what I would recommend. Join the in crowd. We're the in crowd. We're leading in a loving way, not in a reactionary way that has proven to be quite disappointing over the course of the last 60 years.
Lee?
Hi, Mayor. How's it going?
First of all, I'm well, and I thought you went away.
I'm here.
I mean, I'm not saying that like I want you gone. I'm
You
just saying it was
thought-
kind of a surprise.
You thought you could get rid of
No,
me.
I did not. In fact,
Oh.
no one could get rid of you. You're everywhere. Who you work
Right.
for?
Well, I'm freelancing.
Okay,
Today it's
freelance.
for
Go ahead, start your
Southside
own
Weekly.
business.
Yeah.
All right,
so,
go ahead. Freelance reporter.
I really just came back for makeup tips, honestly. What's your secret?
Oh, first of all,
I'm kidding.
no
Don't waste
disrespect.
one of my
no,
questions.
I'm going. No, that's not a real question. But first of all, I don't know if you could react as well as I do to the Brandon Brown.
Oh, I am part Sicilian,
All right.
so I can tan. Okay.
All right.
Anyway, so seriously, actual serious question.
All right.
So your last zoning chair resigned amid charges of bullying. Your new zoning or proposed zoning chair rather has also found himself in a PR mess for attending a rally where a flag was burned. I'm just wondering if you can kind of tell me a little bit behind the rationale of this latest pick. I mean, in all honesty, why not go with perhaps a more diplomatic alder to take some of the heat off your administration?
Okay, I'm going to upset my director of communications. Could you give me an example of someone who's more diplomatic?
I don't want to put words in your mouth. Of
Okay,
who
no, but
you
that's
should
what
pick.
okay, I'm just saying, but you said someone more diplomatic.
Among any of the alders,
Like who?
I guess.
Like who?
I'm asking you. Who,
Okay, no,
who
I mean,
else
because
might-
you offered up a characterization that somehow the one that I put forth is not diplomatic. That's all. And so, okay, just stay with me. I'm just saying, I do appreciate the question,
Yeah.
but there's an assumption there. You're talking about someone who has fought against gentrification throughout the entire city of Chicago. Someone who is supportive of development and black and brown communities for affordable homes, public housing and social housing. Someone who has boldly taken on the machine that had controlled that ward for an entire generation, that caused the displacement of those very residents. And he stood up to them. Who do you want fighting for affordable housing and development in this city? Someone who believes that housing is a human right? Someone who believes that economic development should be focused in the neighborhoods and the people who have been harmed the most? Someone who has fought against gentrification? Someone who has shown a strong will and independence to bring a coalition of people together? That's the kind of person you want, and that's the kind of person that Cesar Lopez is.
Yeah, let me just phrase it this way. I guess Byron Cesar Lopez has been in the media a lot over the last couple months, and it seems like he keeps landing in hot water. So I guess I'm just wondering, what was the rationale behind your administration of selecting somebody who seems to keep inviting criticism, and it seems like it's putting more heat on your administration? So that's why I'm just trying to kind of understand what the strategy there was a little bit.
So there is no heat. We are a cool, collected, calm administration. There's no heat. I'll give you the rationale one more time. He has fought against gentrification. He is clear about the need for economic development as well as affordable housing. That's what the people of Chicago want. They want someone who understands the challenges that working people go through every single day.
Quinn?
Hey, Mayor.
Hey.
Alderman LaSpada today introduced a series of packages with his goal to eliminate all traffic deaths in Chicago. One of them is reducing the citywide default speed limit to 25 miles per hour. Are you in favor? Are you going to support those initiatives?
First of all, I'm grateful for Alderman LaSpada's leadership. I mean, the attention that he has brought around traffic safety is amazing. About a month or so ago, maybe 2 months ago, I was in Montreal, Quebec, and I had a chance to meet the Daniel LaSpada of their local government there, and some of the neat things that they're doing in that particular bureau. As far as this particular measure, we're looking at it. It's up for discussion and debate. Obviously, there are things that all of us will do to tighten, to strengthen, to provide structure and support to the best of our ability to ensure traffic safety. So I'm excited about the fact that we actually have something that we can debate and look through.
The suits that Quebecois Dan LaSpada must have must be quite a look. Second question on the DNC.
What is wrong with you all today? Started off with me getting a picture as soon as I walked in here. You all are great. You reminded me of my 8th period class, by the way. The last day of school.
Blood sugar's low today. At the DNC, do you expect to speak? Will you be speaking at the DNC?
You're making me blush. Look, my main focus right now is ensuring that we have a safe, vibrant convention that propels President Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris back in 4 years. Look, I'm not trying to obfuscate your question. What I'm saying is I'm not focused on speaking at the DNC no more than I'm focused on removing statues right now. And I'm not saying that neither one of those things are important. What I can say most importantly is that Republicans are a real threat to everything that we're doing in Chicago. They're very clear. They're trying to eliminate public education, the Department of Environment. I just reinstated that. They're not committed to the type of infrastructure that's needed to transform our cities. They certainly don't have any answers around immigration or reforming immigration. They are not interested in doing any real work. So quite frankly, and I appreciate the question, and again, I'm doing what is asked of me in this moment. And what that is ensuring a safe, vibrant, exciting convention. I will tell you this, young people may have curfews, but the mayor of Chicago doesn't. And so that week, I'm going to be available for the most part, all day, every day, to ensure that people see the very best of what America has to offer. And everybody knows everything that's dope about America comes from Chicago.
Good afternoon, Mayor.
Good afternoon.
DFSS said today that the homeless encampment under the Dan Ryan at 1100 South Des Plaines was swept recently because of concerns over the DNC. What is the concern there, and how does an action like this reflect progressive values?
Yeah, so first of all, it was not the response of the DNC. My goal is to transform our city so that we have a real response to homelessness in this city. And we offered people a place to stay, and most of them took it. And I'm going to slow down just for a second because this is important. The level of trauma that people are experiencing on the streets of Chicago is quite severe. So there should be no judgment why we have to go to people and encourage them to come inside. But I'm grateful that our team stood up and responded. You know, this is not a new practice, first of all, but we have been far more adamant about making sure that the unhoused have real dignity. So this was not a response to the DNC, because guess what? It's not like because the DNC is here that they're not homeless people in the country. And it certainly doesn't mean that homelessness is going to go away once the DNC leaves. I have, for the first time in the history of Chicago, and I'll close here, we have a chief homelessness officer. It's never existed before. Can I tell you how serious I am about this? My brother, who had untreated trauma, died addicted and unhoused, would never treat people the way I'm going to treat people the way I believe the system should have treated Leon.
So when did your administration make this decision, and did the alderman ask you to as well?
No one has to ask me to lead. I just do it. In the words of Shaka Khan, I do it naturally. This has nothing to do with the DNC. You've known me for some time. I've been telling you that there's 70,000 unhoused people in the city of Chicago. I don't need a convention to lead. And I certainly did not need the convention to become mayor of the city of Chicago.
The Sun-Times reported that in moving the people from the encampment into the hotel in, I believe it's Streeterville, that people were then moved out of that hotel to make room for them.
That sequence is just off. Here's the simplest way I can put it. There were a number of locations where people accepted housing, number of locations. There are instances where room is made, but in this instance, I don't know how they're coming to that conclusion. The ultimate goal is to make sure that we secure shelter for the unhoused, but I shouldn't say the ultimate goal. That's one goal. The ultimate goal is to build a unified system. I'm grateful that the state of Illinois has expressed and has demonstrated its commitment to this, and our chief homelessness officer, Soto, will be releasing a 5-year plan. Chief of staff soon, right? Okay, she's working on it.
And separately, why was it appropriate for taxpayers to be on the hook today for the vote? They voted to agree to the severance package for the former chief procurement officer, and it was not disclosed the financial settlement involved in that severance. Why is that appropriate to taxpayers?
The person who has been removed was paid by taxpayers. I'm paid by taxpayers. So the settlement is consistent with how all public employees are paid. Police officers, firefighters, that's all.
But now the city will have to pay out her severance in addition to the salary of the new.
Well, you're going to have to pay for someone else's salary regardless, right? That's just a part of the work. But here's the bigger picture here. There were 50 alders who voted for this measure. You know why? Because everyone is in agreement that we have to do development better, faster, and more equitable. They're trusting my leadership here. They're trusting my leadership. the way we distribute contracts in this city has long been it's been a sore spot for the city of Chicago, where we're not providing real opportunities for taxpayers to benefit from the investments that we're making. Today of all days is a very clear indication. When I talk about $1.25 billion of an investment, when we talk about the airlines deal, when we talk about Google, Chase, the fact that we are the #1 relocator for corporate headquarters anywhere else in the country, the fact that we are doing development downtown, changing office spaces into homes and making them affordable, the Cut the Tape initiative, you know what today said? That the city of council recognizes my leadership in this moment, and they trust me. They trust me. Are there any other questions today? All right, you all enjoy the weekend.
Thanks all.
All right, thank you.